All right, looks like we're live. There you go. That's they changed that intro like 3 or 4 times on us. Test. That was an improvement from the music previously. So that was I was jamming a little bit.
That was awesome. I was mesmerized by it.
Right? You just kept staring. It was like that minute just was going, and you were like, "All right, let's keep it going." All right. So shout out to QSC for the intro music. Also, shout out to Brad and his birthday. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Brad!
Brad.
Happy birthday, Brad!
Happy birthday! Those of you guys don't know, that is our man behind the scenes. He is the one that gets us all together. He handles the background stuff. So he's also a great guy at QSC to reach out to if you need equipment. So everybody in the chat box, shout out Brad. If you can, tell your friends it's his birthday. Hello, Hillary. Thank you for joining us. Right now, we're just letting people file in, but for those of you that have seen us before, I am DJ Keelez. I am the moderator for today's DJ discussion, and we have a panel of amazing DJs here with us. I will go ahead and get the intro started. I am based out of Los Angeles, California. I specialize in super fun, high-energy private events, weddings, virtual events, corporate functions. I'm an LGBTQ event expert and an all-around exciting person who always talks like I've had 5 cups of coffee, unless it's the day after a gig, and then I sound like you wouldn't even know I sound like because I'm so sorry, but that's a different conversation, which we'll talk about today because we're getting back to live events, baby. But not to get too far ahead of us, Rundat, our girl. I have a new panel. Normally you see KrisCut and AK, but we have 2 new ones on here. So we're going to introduce Rundat and go around because Rundat's on my side. But Rundat, once again, my girl Rundat, she usually chats with Kristen on the other female DJ discussions, but we're excited to have her here today. Let's talk about you, where you're from, what you're doing. How are you?
Hey, thank you. I'm great. I'm way up in the woods of Northern California, Humboldt County, 4 hours north of San Francisco. And I basically do all events. It is such a small community with an eclectic amount of events, from weddings to a lot of reggae shows to private parties, school, a little bit of corporate, cannabis cups, you name it, I do it. So I'm really happy to be on this show today with all of you. And a little bit more about me. I am the host of the Royal Queens Rising podcast, where I interview female DJs. Super passionate about connecting with other DJs and sharing our stories to the world. And what else? I'm the author of How to Start a DJ Business. You can find that book on Amazon, and I'll stop there.
Well, also, you do have one more thing. You are having Royal Queens Rising retreat that you're doing. And I think, is it sold out yet, or you still have a spot left?
We got one more spot. Yeah. So if you're tuning in and you want to join us in Georgia on July 25th, DJ Jess, Stephanie Stardust, Nikki Nell will be there. Brandy, DJ B Selecta, she's going to be there. And yeah, we're starting our first retreat and it's going to be amazing. So hit me up for anything about that, or follow me on Instagram, DJ Rundat, and follow along and join us next time if you can't make it, because I know it's like super last minute.
Yeah, no problem. Jessica is in the chat. I see her here. What's up, Jess? How are you? Jess is, she makes her appearances on the other panel. Cool. That's awesome. That is great stuff you're doing. Sorry I can't join, but I'm excited to see all about it on the stories and everything like that. It looks like a really good time. So props to you for putting that together.
Thank you.
Another not new face to us, but she has not been here for a while. Tessa, who actually used to be one of the moderators here on the QSC. She was the one who invited me on. So I got to give respect where respect is due to my girl Tessa here.
You're the best replacement. So much better than me.
No, I could never. I
love that you're doing this.
Yeah,
no. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, let us know a little more about yourself.
So my name's Tessa. I'm the founder of Prism DJs, an all-female DJ booking agency in Los Angeles, California. We do corporate events and weddings and, just getting back out there.
There you go. Awesome. Cool. And let's go ahead and round up the intros, and then we're going to get into a little more of what you guys are up to. But KrisCut, our girl from Vegas, the city that doesn't sleep, and the girl that doesn't sleep, let them know.
Yes, welcome everyone. I'm DJ KrisCut, Team No Sleep. I am running on fumes. Like everyone knows, I don't sleep in the city of sin. I've been a DJ out here since 2003. Also currently going back to in real life gigs, and I'm also still DJing on Twitch. So trying to balance all of that, and yeah, that's it. Hello, welcome.
Awesome. Cool. Good. Great to have you. So speaking of Twitch, is Twitch still going good for you? I know we talk about this everything, but I'm always curious to check in with you because I'm not in the Twitch game like you. So how is your Twitch game going? Still going strong?
Yeah, Twitch is still very, very good for me. There's still people on there. There's still people that actually love Twitch a lot more than going out. A lot of people, like we say, it's been like such a traumatic year. Like some of us are suffering from some kind of PTSD, coronavirus. Like we don't want to go out still, and sometimes I feel like that too. I still get a little bit of anxiety doing some of my gigs. So I feel like there still is that market on Twitch for everyone, who still wants to party at home. They still don't feel comfortable going out, or they're still on lockdown, like Canada and I forgot what parts of the other parts of the world. So, it's still going pretty strong. Myself, watching all the people that I have been following, there has been a dwindling down in the numbers of DJs that are currently live normally, but there is still a want and demand for that. So I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. And I am incorporating it as much as I can into my live gigs, so that helps a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. How so? What do you mean by incorporating it?
So one of my gigs, I'm able to live stream because they have the internet for it. I have a camera, a setup. It's a little rough around the edges still. I still need DJ Slip to help me sometimes. Like I'm calling him like, are you free? Come over and help me work out the kinks. But I'm trying to live stream as many of the gigs that I can that allow me to.
Oh, so, that's awesome. Yeah. So you can still keep your followers happy kind of thing. So
yeah, so they see in real life and they follow me. They can follow me around. So
that's cool. That's a good way to kind of double down there. That's awesome. Cool. And I was actually at a store the other day, and I saw that they had a screen hooked into their sound system, and they had a DJ stream that they were playing instead of music. And I said, oh, that's a cool thing I've never seen before. And I was asking him, I was like, oh, is that Twitch? Or they were playing, it was a cascade on YouTube is what they ended up playing. But I was like, they had never heard of Twitch. And so I was telling Twitch, and I was like, oh, if you wanted to keep it fresh, you have that option. And they were like, oh, that's super cool. So that was the first time I had seen that, but that's a really cool thing that I think people don't realize that this pandemic might have. I mean, the pandemic in general, I feel brought a love for DJs with D-Nice in general, and just putting the DJ to the forefront. That was already kind of coming to the forefront, but I think now with Twitch and Instagram and people just being able to watch it, they really are kind of hit to the game of what a DJ can do, and that it's fun to watch somebody presenting music in addition to just kind of like listening to a Spotify playlist. So I think with that being said, it's going to stick around in that sense, but I can see people getting busy, and it's going to be tough to manage. So they got to be smart like you. So those of you watching, take notes, because
I'm burnt out though. I'm not gonna lie, there is a little bit of burnout, like where I had to cancel a couple of streams because like it is difficult, like now going back and forth to gigs as opposed to like waking up, rolling out of bed, taking a shower, and being ready to stream. So I have been juggling. It wasn't an easy, it's not easy. Still, I'm still trying to figure out how to still like do both. So, but I'm still gonna continue to do both, and I'm letting my community know that. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Have you had any of your community members come out to your gigs in person that you had not met before?
I'm trying to think. You know what? Since it's still fairly new and I only like gig Fridays, Saturdays, I haven't. But I have people. Hopefully this weekend they're gonna try to come say hi. I did meet some DJs, so that was cool. Like some DJs I would have never met. Like they came out a couple weeks ago from Chicago, and that was really nice to meet other fellow DJs. So, but no, like just viewers. Hopefully this weekend, we'll see.
Yeah,
there you go. That's a new way to promote gigs too. So that's awesome.
Right. It's fun.
Cool. Awesome. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. I love seeing what you're doing with that, because you're one of the few that I see is being able to incorporate it and doing it all that. I mean, so there's a lot of people killing it on Twitch, but like I said, I've always said it. You're the one that I saw was like, man, one of the first one on the game and went. And then, between you and Miss Ninja, both of you guys were like, first I saw on the thing, it was crazy. But let's see. Speaking of burnout, that's where I was going. You said something before and I had a good segue. Yeah. That's what I wanted to segue to. So we're back in live event mode, right? And coming from a pandemic where we were all going 0 to 60, is anybody else feeling kind of like, what WTF? Like, we're like, huh? It's been an interesting transition. We were just talking offline, and Tessa was talking about that too, about the amount of inquiries coming in and just people filling their 2022 dates and ready to party. And people in the chat box, let me know if you have the same thing going on wherever you are in the country or world. But yeah, it's been crazy. It's been interesting. A lot of my time, like you were saying, Tessa, has been feeling administrative, and I feel like I kind of can't catch up. For every email that I'm answering, I feel like I get this many more, and it's very interesting.
Like 3 or 4 a day during the week. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So I'm having admin burnout.
Yeah,
and then on the weekends we're booking out DJs, so it's like 3 or 4 weddings a weekend, and I'm on a wedding, and just making sure that everybody is getting where they need to go.
Right.
Yeah, but it's stressful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super stressful. I know it's one of those things that I'm new to the agent aspect of it, I guess, if you will, whatever word you want to use for when you're sending
but
DJ.
You do book out others.
Yeah, I don't have a roster as deep as yours, and I am learning that it is a management process. Yeah, it's a manage of learning of managing, and yeah, KrisCut, you do it too, right? You have other DJs that work for you as well, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so it's like I'm still, like I said, new to that whole thing. So figuring other people's schedules and rates and all that stuff has been a very interesting thing for me, and just talking to clients and figuring out, selling them and all this other stuff. It's just been an interesting, definitely administrative, whirlwind in terms of okay, where am I at right now? Who am I talking about? What am I doing? What date is this? What's your venue? So,
Don't get the clients confused.
I know.
Don't get the clients confused. Oh my gosh.
And then you show up on the day and you're like, wait, what couple is this? Bride and groom, or brides, grooms, whatever you're doing. You know what I mean? You're putting it together as much as you can.
I know. I showed up. I'm like, how do I pronounce the last name? I'm like, it's so important, but it's a lot to manage. I have my notebook and my notes, and I have my honey book, and I'm bringing on another DJ also. And we got to DJ together our first wedding last weekend, and that was so nice having a second person with me. And I'm like, I don't want to go alone anymore, and I don't have to. I get to have an assistant or have that second DJ with me.
It's always nice to have the extra support, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you can have them, if you can have them available and use them, it's great. I'm still trying.
I heard that there's a Facebook group in Los Angeles that has AV techs that are ready and willing to work. So
I need to. Mama.
I know. If anybody knows,
wow,
I'm going to ask my friend, and then I'll share it with you all.
Yeah, no, let me know, because I am all for the assistant and just the AV tech. And I would love it if I could have that available.
It really takes a load off, so that you are able to focus on making all of your announcements and your talent DJing for the wedding,
Yeah, and it's great to have people who are just focused on the AV part of it and don't care about the DJ. Because sometimes if you have another DJ with you, they want to work, at the end of the day. And also to have a DJ as an assistant is one of those things, because DJs want a DJ. So they're going to assist you, but so much before they're like, okay, well, now I want to work, well, when do I get to work? You know what I mean? Or they're going to start taking other jobs and not be able to assist you on the weekend that you need them. So that's crucial support to have if you can find somebody who doesn't necessarily want to DJ and purely just wants to come and help you out with that. That is priceless. So, and yeah, it's just like somebody in the chat box, they take photos of you. That is priceless in itself. I need to just hire a photographer. Hire a photographer, train them how to plug in a speaker. Be like, hey, this is an XLR cable, right? Similar to what you use. You just plug it in. But yeah, no, it's priceless for sure. So yeah, if anybody has any recommendations or any Facebook ideas and you want to put in the chat box, let us know. Because I think all of us right now with live events coming up are searching and willing and able, and any DJs in the area looking for work, put yourself in the chat box. Let us know. Let everybody know. Everybody needs the help. So for sure, I'm sure we're all kind of in that boat, right? Am I right, ladies? I can see, yeah, I know. I see everybody on Facebook. We're all just like, yeah, we're just doing our best. But I'm super excited to see everybody working. Now, I want to hear, since live events, we have not had any kind of crazy live event stories. But I know, Tessa, you said you had an interesting story from a wedding you did this weekend, right?
It's a very short story, but it was very exciting for me to see how we've evolved legally or illegally, I don't know. So I did a wedding on Sunday, and how do you guys feel about 4-hour dance parties? When somebody puts that, planner puts that on the timeline, or the guests put that on the timeline.
I would have advised against it.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to make sure I'm not crazy.
No, yeah.
So I'm getting a bunch of timelines that have 4-hour dance parties, and I tell the clients, because I just like to be completely transparent with them, and say, hey, I will do the 4 hours, but your guests aren't going to dance for 4 hours. I'll still play really cool music during that time, but they're going to want to talk with family members, and they're going to want to go to the bar. So anyway, this Sunday wedding, they had a 4-hour dance party. I told them that, may not dance the whole time. And then I get there and there's a weed bar. And I'm like, oh my God, they're definitely not going
to be sleeping too. Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I'm more power to the cannabis smokers out there and everything. I'm not knocking it off, but keep it real. Munchies and a nap. That's it, right? After so much.
So I played a lot of reggae and dance hall, which was so dope because I don't do that as a lot at weddings. But it was really neat. It was like a really chill atmosphere. And I'm just going to say it was the most well-behaved group of guests I've ever had at a wedding. So I'm all for the weed bar weddings. And I'm just wondering if it's going to be a trend.
Oh, yeah, up here. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. You're an interesting person.
Oh, we're behind.
But what's funny? A lot of my weddings, it is a long dance party like that. Like, I don't even look at it that way. Like, I'll do like a 10-hour wedding, like 10-hour country music. And I watch people around the world and in the US that are like, sometimes they only do the reception and sometimes they separate it. And mine are just these marathons. So I'm like, are we doing it wrong? But like a lot of them are, our venues are very different. There's a lot of barn weddings. We don't have big, beautiful, like halls or, I don't know. It's very, very different. So I love just hearing what it's like for you all. And like, I feel like I don't get a big dancing crowd often. I mean, it's kind of like 50-50 to be honest. And a lot of times the big dancing crowds are the people coming from out of town, like the more destination to Humboldt County. So, and I try not to take it personally as a DJ. And some of my first gigs were St. Patrick's Day. I played 2 different breweries and everyone was sitting down, and that's like a whole like other weird thing too, is like you weren't supposed to like get up and dance and but now things are feeling more normal. I've played the last 8 weekends. I've had a big variety of events from weddings to graduations to concerts, and I think people want to dance more now. They got extra.
I think they're adding the extra time because everybody wants to party.
Yeah.
And it's a great place for them to party.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it depends. Well, I think it depends. There's a lot of variables that go into the allowance of that long of a dance party, the crowd, who the coordinator is, the area that you are. I think there's a lot that goes into it. Most venues, in my experience, they're pretty standard in terms of their time frame. So they know when they're going to end and they know when most of their weddings start. So tends to be pretty average. Backyard weddings are places at independent venues.
10 o'clock.
Yeah. No, I mean, the backyard weddings, I had one of my associate DJs went on one where the bride was starting at 3:30 p.m. and she wanted to end at 2 a.m. And I was like, listen, I'm going to have to advise. I don't know if that's going to work because that's a really long party. But you're going to be dancing at like 7 p.m., 8 p.m. and you're going to go till 2. I'm like, I'm willing to do it. Here's the charge for that. If you want to add it, like more power to you. But, do you think so? We eventually compromised and she ended up ending at 11 p.m. And the DJ said that it ended up being a great party in the perfect amount of time. So I really think it varies on groups. So it's really interesting. But I'm curious to know, because here in SoCal, I think the standard, and I'm curious to know, Tessa, too, is that with very little formalities on those weddings, are they like removing a lot of like bouquet tosses? Are they still doing all the formalities with that?
I feel like the clients that gravitate towards me, they're taking out the traditional bouquet toss and I haven't seen a bouquet toss and garter toss in forever.
Yeah,
but they're still doing the parent dances.
Yeah, see, and I think
I always advise them just to open up the dance floor, have a reason for everybody to be gathered on the dance floor and focused on the dance floor, to have some type of dance, either the first dance, mother, son, father, daughter, and then say, the dance floor is now open.
Right, yeah. Yeah, no, I asked because I find when a lot of people take away their formalities, it ends up giving a lot of room for dancing at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, they're just like, oh, we're just going to put this out.
You know what I hate though? I don't hate it, but it's a challenge, is when I have a great dance party going and someone comes up to me and says, hey, tell them that the photo booth is open. And then you're like, I don't want to do that just yet.
Right, yeah.
Dance party.
Yeah, you gotta time those what's it called, announcements accordingly, because then you don't want to announce like desserts open, because now you're like, okay,
they're gone,
so they're gonna run, or your last call at the bar, unless the bar is like right in front of me, then I'll do it because I can watch them. But outside of that, like if it's in a different room, like it's a whole I
if
definitely,
the bar is next to you, then you have an automatic party,
right? What? And I think the lesson is, it's definitely an education process too with the couple. Like you have to sit down and kind of tell them, like, hey, here's what that's going to, and if you can educate them, and just like you said, so you can do 4 hours, but there's got to be ebb and flow. They're going to sit down. Like if you're okay with that, let's do it. If not, and I think that's really key.
I'm all about managing their expectation ahead of time.
Yeah, if they're expecting a 4-hour rager, you're going to have to just say, like, I'm not, like, yes, if everybody was drunk, and I mean, depending on how you roll, if they're drunk and on drugs, especially, then you're probably, and I'm like, but I need to know what everyone is doing, and definitely not the cannabis type of drugs. Like, I don't know if that can keep them up. Like, I need to know what's happening here.
I have something to say about that.
Oh, what are you going to say?
Last weekend's wedding was so interesting. They thought that they really didn't want to do the first dance. And I told them on the call, I said, if you want me to cut it short, just be like, cut it, like it's whatever you want. I always try to be like, it's whatever you guys want. And so then, we're at the point of like, okay, are we going to do the first dance? And, someone's like, we're ready to get the party started, and then I'm like, okay, we'll talk to the couple. And then they came back and everyone was dancing already. They were starting to dance. And the couple's like, well, I guess we got to get a jail-free card and we don't have to do our first dance because everyone's dancing. So they were under the assumption that it goes like that, like first dance and then people can dance. And I don't see it that way. But it was real. The whole thing was interesting. But what made me think of this was you talking about people on drugs. So at the end of the night, which was a pretty long dance party, we had one guy doing the ball dance, the magic ball, and yelling, "Run that, run that!"
Oh, that's so funny.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with weddings. You never know what you're going to get guest-wise or anything like that. So, yeah, it's interesting. That's one of the things I like about weddings, though, is you never know the crowd. You're either going to get crazy partiers or you're going to get the people who aren't partying. And it's like you really can't take it personally either way. You just got to know kind of it is what. Same with corporate events, too.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have your banger weddings. Sometimes you have your okay weddings. Sometimes you just have guests that don't dance.
Yeah. Sometimes you're just setting the vibe.
Run of the gamut.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, you can't. And I've learned that too when it comes to being a DJ, that you can't take things super personally in terms of, like, you have to look at more than just a raging dance floor. Like sometimes, a raging dance floor means it's great, but sometimes if the crowd is not dancers, you got to look around and say, are they enjoying it? Are they smiling? Are they shoulder shimmying? Are they tapping their feet? You know what I mean? Are they staying or did they leave early? Like that's kind of, I think, the signs of you knowing that even though they're not dancing, that you're doing a good job. And I'm that was a learning process for me in terms of realizing to not take it personal. Oh my God, they're not, like, I associated DJing with dancing, and if I can't get them dancing, then what is it? So then you're like trying to throw in all this music, and like with my younger years, I'm like throwing in like, okay, well maybe they want to dance with EDM, and then now people are looking at like you're crazy because you're just trying desperately to get people to dance, and they're like, we're not trying to dance, like you were doing fine.
That's called AD DJ.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had to learn. Now I know. Now I just like set the vibe. Is everybody chilling? You know what I mean? And then you realize that when you're setting the vibe right, that they're high-fiving, even though they're not dancing. And they're like, oh, you did a great job. That music was awesome.
Yeah, that does happen too. And you're like, did I do a good job? Like, no, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate that. Can you just tell me what about that was good? I just need a little more. I got to take notes. But it could just be me. I don't know. But yeah, so how was it in Vegas, KrisCut? Do you guys have longer dance floors, or what's that like for weddings?
For weddings, so my husband DJ Slip, who's in the chat, is actually like the main wedding DJ. I'll only do a wedding if I have an MC or I have somebody working with me. I cannot run a wedding by myself. Like I'm not like a wedding DJ like you guys. So I give you guys major props because I cannot do a wedding all by myself. I did one all by myself and it was a disaster. I am traumatized. I'll never do it again by myself. I don't blame you. Yeah. So, but yeah, like, you know, weddings are in full force. Of course, everybody that canceled last year, they're doing all their dates this year. And, you know, everyone's still trying to figure out like there's actually, it seems like sometimes there's a shortage, you know, like of all the DJs for our, not our company, but other people too are like, hey, do you know any other wedding DJs? And it's like everyone's trying to cram all their weddings, you know, like back to back. So you know, like as far as, you know, so funny you guys were talking about the don't take it personal too, going back to that. Because my gigs, going back to IRL, are like restaurants and lounges. So I'm used to not having a dance floor. And then sometimes I feel like it's hard for me. Like I actually had a bad night on Saturday because there were some people being vocal about my music. They were just like yelling out like, this music sucks. Like they're eating dinner. It's like, what do you want me to do? Have you twerking on the table while you're at a fine dining establishment? Like, you know, so I was like, it kind of got to me and I, you know, like you have to shake that stuff off. But I was having a conversation with my husband. I was like, man, these people, like, they were like, you know, they're obviously very young, very vocal. You know, I guess they wanted like the newer, you know, music or hip hop but I'm like, it's a little too early. I'm like, well, like it kind of messed with my head, you know? So to have that, like, you know, don't take it personal attitude is really difficult. Cause you know, you're, like we said, you're hired for a reason. These people hire you. For a reason, your music choice, your music selection. So, man, you know, I really took a hit, like for confidence wise. Oh. I was at Tao restaurant. I'm playing for a restaurant, so it's like, you know, fine dining. Yeah, so like, I mean, and it's, you can't make everybody happy. I know, like, so, but I have to wait for a certain time, like, you know, because early on it's like a lot of people are still trying to enjoy their food and not choke on it. You know what I'm saying? Like 7 o'clock, you can't be playing that like hard music. And then when the club opens at 10, that's when I start playing, you know, what the club would be playing. But yeah. So
and I think you have to also understand, and there's somebody, and somebody in the chat box that's talking about not getting people dancing being unacceptable and everything like that. I want to just touch on that. I hear you, but you have to understand as DJ, that's unrealistic expectation. If you are going into DJing thinking that every party you do is going to be a rager, you're lying to yourself. I've talked to people who are really big. My brother-in-law is the vice president of Ultra Records. I have met Steve Aoki. I've met some of the biggest guys, and they've told me the same thing, that, you know, you show up to gigs and you're like, this isn't my crowd. I don't know what I'm doing here. This isn't my people. And you can't do anything about it. If you show up as an EDM DJ to a hip hop crowd, they aren't going to dance and they might boo you off the stage just because that crowd doesn't like your music. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the crowd. So of course, as a DJ, your ultimate goal is to get that crowd pumping and going. But starting out as a DJ, you don't know the crowd's coming your way. So until you get to the point of your career that you have the ability to pick and choose your gigs and to be able to be upfront with people and say, hey, I don't know if that's my crowd. This is the music I play. Are you going to be okay with that? Here's my boundaries. What do you want? Then it's going to come to play where you're going to have a lot more ragers than not. But it is, you're lying to yourself and everyone on your staff to say that every dance party is going to be a rager. I'm just putting that out there. Of course, the expectations, you want them to get the dance party raging. Of course, I wish I could get them off. But if you have had a party where they've been drinking for 8 hours and now on the 9th, they decided we're going to open the dance floor and they can barely stand, probably not going to be a rager. They're going to be falling all over each other. You're not going to get much content from it. You're going to get stories to tell, but you know, it is what it is. So, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. So that's why as a DJ, if you want to make it far in this career, you can't let those little incidents happen. And also people, some people are amazing and there are just some real crappy people in the world who they, no matter what you do, they're not going to be happy. If you, they ask for hip hop, you play hip hop, they're going to say, not that hip hop. You play
not that hip hop.
House music. That's the one I love. Is they're like, play some house music. And you're like, what kind of house music?
Like so much house
so many subgenres.
What were we saying?
When I first started DJing, weddings 10 years ago, I had the dance floor wasn't really popping, and somebody slipped me a napkin, with a note on it, and it said, "You fucking suck."
I hate those napkins. No good comes out of a napkin.
It hurt my feelings. I still remember to this day that happened, but I got better.
No, it happens. I've had stories when I first started DJing. I remember my very first DJ gig in Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard. This old guy came up to me, handed me a list of songs and handed it to me and slid it to me and said, "This is what you should be playing. And if you knew what was good for yourself, you should play that." Because I host a party every year with Jay-Z, a Super Bowl party every year with Jay-Z. And I'm like, who the F is this guy? But I've never been to LA. And I'm like, is this true? Now I would say, I'd be like, I bet you do, buddy. I'm sure you, I mean, come on. Everybody's so full of it in LA. Like, unless I see Jay-Z with you, I'm not taking your word for it. And even then, I can't even trust that Jay-Z's with you. You probably are just lying to me as he's standing behind you. Like, you can't take, you know what I mean? So with that being said, I will never forget that feeling of him handing me that list of songs, telling me. Right. And I remember at the end, I was so defeated. And at the end of the gig, I just ripped it up and I kind of just threw it in the air like confetti. And I was just so over it. But I learned from it too. Nowadays, I've learned to not take it like that. And if somebody were to hand me that paper, I would just pat them on the back and be like, "Cool, thank you so much for your opinion, buddy. I'll definitely take a look. Let me see what I got here." And then I would take it, throw it to the side, and I wouldn't play it. So, you know, it is, and I would probably make a point to never play any of those songs that whole night. I would probably, even if they're, I'm not playing that one. So,
how do you guys manage rude people coming up to you? No. Because we have to be so nice and courteous all the time, and you don't know who that guest is. Yeah.
Ooh, right. That's true.
You just don't know what's going to come out of them and what's going to come out of you. So, I mean, don't make any promises. Try to brush it off.
Yeah.
I've learned to kill them with kindness. That's the thing that I've learned to do is like, especially just, you know, and manage their expectation. Is that it? And, you know, like I did a wedding, you know, this weekend to where they were from Wisconsin, and, you know, Wisconsin and SoCal are two different worlds. So one of the fathers of I think it was the father of the groom or something, came up to me and had a list of, so I don't know how he whipped up an Excel spreadsheet on his phone. Like an Excel spreadsheet of all his favorite songs. And it was just stuff that I just didn't have. It was like B-sides of like Styx and Motley Crue and just like, I'm like, and I told him, and I'm like, "Listen, sir," I said, "you know, I appreciate your music style and I bet you all that is great. But I'm like, honestly, that's not what the couple told me to play. And I'll be 100% honest with you, I don't have a lot of that stuff." I said, "I have a lot of the mainstream stuff." So like he had Queen, "You're My Best Friend." I said, "I can do that Queen song for you, no problem." But I was like, some of that more underground stuff, I don't know if it's gonna work. And I don't have it. So, you know, I'm sorry, but. And you just have to break it down. And, you know, my favorite thing to say is, you know, there's no Wi-Fi. I can't download. Even if I
that's the worst.
I can't.
Yeah. Can you just get it? Can you just get it for us? Like right now, like, don't you have internet? Like, that's the worst because people assume like we're Spotify. They're like, hey, you know, like, hey, you know, but you have internet on your computer, right? You can like go to YouTube and get it.
Right.
And you're just like, it's like the worst, right? Because you're like in your head, like I use Tidal. Do any of you guys use Tidal? Like where you actually grab? Yeah, like. So you don't want to tell them that you can, especially if it's a song that you
never tell them.
Once you do it once, they take over.
Once you do it once, it's over.
It's a whole thing. You have to take it easy. You got to let them know, like, listen, I can't keep, you know, so it's very, like, I'll do it if it's a younger crowd or if it's something that I know is going to work. Like, I will definitely do it. But, you know, you have to be very careful, especially the more they've been drinking, the more they start to be demanding. And then they think that they're in the show and it becomes like a whole thing. So it's very like the one that, tell me if it's not cringeworthy. I said, because somebody comes with their phone lit up in their hand and they're like, "Hey, so can you download any? You have everything, right? Let me just show you what." And they're just like coming straight towards your face and you're just like cringing. And you're like, "Oh my God, what's going to come out of this person's mouth?" There's nothing better than when they actually open their mouth and they're like, "Do you have Yeah by Usher?" And you're like, "Oh God, yes, I can do Yeah by Usher, sure, no problem." Or like the Cupid Shuffle, like, "Sure, I can do the Cupid Shuffle, but don't come at me with some." I had one person come up to me and she's like, "There was a song that I heard in a shoe store when we were 16, and I think that would be so great right now." And I'm like, "Do you have anything else for me besides a song when you were 16 that got played in the shoe store?" So people are very hilarious with that. But to answer your question, Tessa, I don't know. I would be curious. Let us know in the chat box if anybody has any interesting ways that they handle rowdy or rude guests. I would be interested to hear what everybody has to say because I'm sure we've all dealt with that. But like me personally, I like I said, I've learned to just be as kind as I can. If they hand me money and they're being rude or whatever, I have no problem handing the money back as nicely as I can. And if you were at an establishment that has a bouncer, do not be scared to chat with that bouncer and let them know, "Hey, this guy's bothering me. Keep your eye." And then you don't even have to deal with it. The bouncer will come and nonchalantly get him away from you. So there's ways to handle it. That's
well,
not
now we can say, hey, I want my protective space. I want my 6 feet still because this variant's out there, and I don't want your drunk guests spitting on me asking for something.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can't, and somebody said put up a sign, no request. I've tried that, but let's keep it real. Do people read signs or listen to them? They're all they're going to do is they're going to come up, look at your sign and be like, no request. Anyway,
for weddings, I think that you have to expect that there's going to be requests. And I think you should take requests at weddings if they fit the mood and is going to keep the dance floor going. But I usually tell the clients ahead of time. I'm like, how do you feel about the requests? They're like, no requests. And I'm just like, well, sometimes they're good. Sometimes they are good.
Sometimes they are. I agree 100%. And usually the way I say that is like, I'll take requests, but you also just know, since I'm a live DJ, that comes with, I might not be able to put it on right now. They might have to wait a little bit for me to be able to get it in. You know what I mean? Like if I'm on hip hop and they want EDM, I can't necessarily. And usually I'll tell my couple, like, listen, if this is the groom or the bride or the parents or somebody coming up to me, you know what I mean? Or you know, I will probably be able to maybe make it happen and stop it. But outside of you, I'm not stopping the music for your guest. So I will get it on when I can, but just I have to let them know that. And then they're usually fine with it. And then they will usually communicate that with their guests. When the guests start requesting, they'll tell their guests and say, hey, yeah, she'll play it, but you just got to give her a minute. And once I start DJing and they realize that I'm a live DJ, I think they start to kind of respect it a little more. And they're like, oh, when you can, like, oh, what you got going on is great. So like, and when they do that, then I'm a lot more receptive to the request. You know? So I think you have to build that kind of trust and rapport to really handle that request thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm a part of Vibo. So my clients get an app where they get to select the songs that they want and they get to invite their guests to join also. So, you know, it's definitely been an interesting journey of trying to get people to be technical and use the app because not all of my clients are. And then, you know, finding that fine limit of how many songs should you allow them. And then there's also, you know, a hot topic lately is, are we going to play explicit songs at a wedding? And and that's been a hot topic online in the Facebook DJ groups and stuff. And, you know, like I said earlier, I'm all about what do my clients want. And so it came up this weekend when I brought my second DJ with me and we were talking about it. And I'm like, they have dirty versions and they said they wanted the dirty version. And the kids were the life of the party for like the first half. And so I went to the bride and groom and they were really sweet, cool people. And I asked them, I'm like, oh, they're like, wow, we didn't even really think about that. Like we don't really deal with a lot of kids, but these kids were doing the splits and headbanging and like, they were just like, they were doing all kinds of
listen to that stuff on their own anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Don't kid yourself.
That's a whole nother thing, but the requests have been off the hook lately. And I definitely try to bring some pen and paper to keep them out of my face. And there are some apps now, requests now, but like internet's an issue where I'm at. So I have a whole set of issues of my own with apps and internet and downloading songs and Spotify and Tidal and all of that. But I think it's definitely like I've learned through experience, there's a lot of questions to ask your couples beforehand. And that's what's nice about Vibo is it does ask a lot of these questions in the planning form. So, you know, do you want to allow your guests to do requests? That's music.
And I mean, there are organized way to do it. So I think, if you can, you know, figure it, I mean, if you can get it beforehand, that's always definitely easier. I think on the fly requests, technology speaking, like I've tried to do it where people text me the requests and I find when I'm in the DJing, I just forget to look. And then I'm like 2 hours into my set and I'm like, oh my God, I have request. So
absolutely.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there wasn't even cell service at all this wedding. So it was kind of like
it's a blessing and a curse.
Right. And another thing I'm finding this season is I'm getting people wanting to play instruments for the ceremony or the first dance. And there were some assumptions made. And I know better to not make assumptions, but I didn't ask. I thought the ukulele was just going to be a ukulele. I didn't think they would want to plug it into my system. I didn't think that there would be 2 girls and that they'd need microphones and all these things.
Multi-channel mixing. I just had someone ask for 6 channels and expect the DJ to mix that sound. And I'm like, well, the DJ was going to bring a smaller mixing board just for herself. So I need to charge you extra for that mixing board and her technical skill to mix those instruments and microphones, because that's not, I mean, that is something you need to have experience in. I think you can just do a willy-nilly job at it. Yeah. But you want everything to be quality.
Yeah, and I'm learning that too. You have to definitely communicate that with clients that, yeah, you can get what you want, but there's going to be, I mean, look, I'll be honest. When I started off in the industry, I used to be like, yeah. And then I would go and I would end up spending so much money to accommodate my client's need. And it wasn't until recently that I realized, what am I doing? I'm losing money just trying to make people happy, when at the end of the day, the clients are willing to pay for it, because really the clients don't know. So
I think you have to explain why there's that charge so they can understand.
And there's two different clients. There's the client who's going to say, oh, it's okay, I don't need it, then we'll figure it out. And then there's a client that's going to say, oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, so absolutely, go ahead and add that. And how much is that going to cost me? So many people understand what it means to pay for convenience. So I would say definitely understand your line items, and, you know, don't be afraid to do things like that. Because I had the same way. I have a lot of people who, in SoCal, live instruments, or people bringing friends in, because you got to understand, this is the talented person capital of the world. So everybody's got a friend that does something. So we have a lot of people who want to bring friends and everything in, and I have taken to that too, saying, yeah, we can accommodate them, but are they self-sufficient, or do they need to plug into my soundboard? If it's mine, I have to bring a large one. There's an extra charge. And some people will be like, oh no, they're self-sufficient, and just for them to save your charge, they will have their people bringing their own stuff. I mean, it gets messy, but I'm like, I could have done it, but it's up to you. You know what I mean? So, and if they need it, then they come. So it's one of those things, but definitely ask questions. To full circle what we're talking about, definitely ask all of those questions beforehand, because the one thing you don't want to do is not ask the questions, show up, and then now you have, what is it, a ukulele? Now you have a ukulele player that can't play because they can't play, or they have to play and everybody's got to be really quiet in order to hear. You strum harder, man. Strum harder. You know what I mean?
Project.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
I love how you're talking about the growth of your business and how you've learned, you know, what gigs are for you, and what your boundaries are. Because when I interviewed you almost 2 years ago, Keelez, like, I remember we talked about burnout. I think I asked you how you avoided it, and you, I think you said something like, I think charge more, work less. And I've definitely been taking that on, and I've been more selective with my gigs, and, you know, thinking about the logistics and my energy, really wanting to protect my energy coming out of that break we just had. You know, it was rough the first few weekends, and you know, now 8 weeks into it, I feel like I'm back in DJ shape a little bit, and I'm, you know, also making sure I'm really prioritizing that downtime, that rest time, and also asking for help. And so I love that you've been touching on how, you know, we learn what doesn't work so well anymore, what wasn't worth it to us, or what are we willing to do, how far are we willing to go for our clients. Because I definitely want to make them really happy and have a good experience and go above and beyond. But like, just kind of looking at some of the things I've accepted or sent proposals to recently, I'm kind of like, oh God, that's a lot. Like, but I haven't been working, so I want to.
Yeah, you have to do what you got to do. And thank you, Wayne, for joining us today. Somebody in the chat box said is trying to have a good day. So thank you, Wayne, for joining us. But yeah, no, it's so true. And at the end of the day, that is something I think comes with education. And you also have to, I mean, there's a lot of things that come into charging: experience, what you need to do, everything like that. So yes, if you're just starting out into the industry, you might, you know, charge a little less and work a little harder than somebody who's been in it a little longer, you know, but also that comes with the, you know, territory and the game and everything like that. But if you don't have the means to charge $5,000 for a wedding, don't charge it. Don't charge $5,000 if all you have to offer is one speaker and a wired microphone. Like, that ain't it. That's not $5,000 worth of service. What you have to understand is those price points come with territory and the expectation of you doing a certain job and you having the equipment needed for that price point, and having a yes attitude. But of course, yes, with here's what that's going to cost. But it's a thing. So anybody watching that's newer in the industry, to say all that is, yeah, you know, part of the hustle, you're going to get burned out at first. And then once you get to a point, then that's when okay, now I can rest a little bit and charge a little more and rest a little bit. But it's a process. And I mean,
it's a learning process for sure. Yeah. I remember when I first started doing weddings, I did a 3 setup wedding for $800 all by myself.
Oh, yep.
I can't believe what I used to do. And it's okay. Like, when you're starting out, maybe you should do things like that, you know, but definitely paid my dues.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I had the same stories. I mean, I used to do stuff for a couple $100 and it was great. And I thought I was doing well, you know what I mean?
Coming out of the admin, a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 job, you'll rarely make that much money in one day.
Right.
As a, you know, admin person.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it's but with great power comes great responsibility is what I like to say. So when you get to that point in the game, like you have to understand, what you're doing, and when you're sending DJs out, understanding, what they're willing to work for and what their limitations are, and making sure that you're sending them to their appropriate clients. And not everybody's going to do weddings, not everybody's going to do corporate events, and I'm learning that too, and understanding personality types and who does what. And it's
I only have about 4 people that do weddings out of the network of 30.
Right. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. The people that
it's a different skill level for sure.
It's a different beast. It's absolutely a different beast. And I learned that too. Like I thought, because for me, I've done so many weddings that it's nothing. Like, you have 3 sets. Okay, bow. I go and I plug it up. So I don't even think about the amount of work it is for somebody who's not as experienced in weddings as I am. It's overwhelming. It's like not for me. I instantly think about it. I'm like, okay, outlets there. Here to the speakers. We go. Where are the guests? Where's the bar? Instantly, I go into that mode. But not you have to really have been in the game to know that, you know what I mean? Like I can look at an outlet and tell you right now if it's going to work or not. I'll be like, is that bad boy work?
I have it in my contract if it's a private residence or wherever it is that I'm not responsible for their power, because I've had power go out at private residences.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And it's always your fault when the power goes out.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So that's the thing is you learn.
Everyone looks at you.
Yeah. Oh my God, the power goes out. It's always the DJ's fault. It's always the DJ's fault. And I think everybody defaults as a DJ is where you look down and you look at the crowd and you're just like, I don't know, I'm doing the best I can,
So one of the things I've invested in is like a battery pack that's also like a big battery. I'm trying to understand even what it is, but basically you plug everything into it, and if the power was to go out, it still has power within it to keep you going at least for a little bit to, not stop the music. But it is kind of big and bulky. And I just got it, so I haven't gotten to fully test it, but I definitely read about it on the DJ groups, and I'm always looking at those posts of like the off-grid ceremony because I live in the middle of nowhere. And so it's definitely something that you might want to think about if that has happened to you a lot.
Right. And what is this? You said this is a generator or something? What is it?
No, it's like it's a battery pack. So it's almost something like in your home office, you would maybe always have your computer plugged into that. So it's like it acts as like a surge protector, but it also will run power. Like I did a ceremony with it recently. So it will run power. I'll have to get the link and share it in the chat after this so you can see better what I'm talking about. Because I know exactly about it.
Yeah, they sell it on Amazon. I know exactly what you're talking about. There's also and honestly, I saw one. So I just want anybody who might not know those things. You can buy the battery packs. You have to make sure you're buying the right one that works for electronics. Not every generator or battery pack is created inverter. So you need one. I think they're called inverters that will work with electronics. So that's one thing. But I will say Costco has some battery packs right now that are on sale. I think the really good one was like maybe $400 or something like that. And then they had a smaller scale. But anyway, they were strong enough that they would keep you probably going for an hour, maybe to 4 or something like that. So it might be looking into your investment, and it's a battery pack just like that. And what the more expensive one had some solar, I think, capabilities too. So anyway, that was at Costco that I just saw recently, and I was looking at it. I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty cool thing. But Duracell has one that's a Power Pack Pro that I think it's like $300. You can find it on Amazon. And that is something that's portable that you can keep with me. So there's different options to that if people want to have. The thing is, you have to make sure those things are charged before every event, that you have them with you. If they don't, so it's like it's that one extra step, but it's the one extra step that in the moments it's needed, it's going to save everybody's life. So, I mean, it's going to, you're going to look like a superhero. So I don't know. I just would. Well, what do you guys, and I am a big believer in bringing the backup items and everything like that. But do you guys travel with a lot of backups and everything, even if you don't need it? Or are you guys very just like what I need for the event?
Backups on backups. Extra hard drives, extra laptop, extra controller.
There you go.
If one speaker goes out, I have another powerful speaker, so you're okay.
All right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And you too, KrisCut, do you travel with that? You travel the team, right? When you work?
Yeah, we travel as a team, but for Vegas, a lot of the stuff is provided for us.
Oh,
even corporate
you guys
events.
are so lucky.
Yeah, because it's so standard out here. So I just make sure. Like I've had moments I forget like my battery charger or my headphones, something stupid, like, and that's, on me because, the whole thing that's been going on with me is like taking everything out because I'm live streaming. And then it's like, I almost want to get like another bag that I could just grab in case somebody calls me last minute, but that's going to cost money. So it's like always making sure and double checking. And my husband's always on me. He's like, make sure you double check everything before you leave. So we are very fortunate that all of our, restaurant lounge gigs already have equipment, and we just have to bring our music and our hard drives and laptop, headphones. That's it. We're lucky with that.
I can tell by the look on your face that you were looking at us like, I don't understand. I'm not comprehending. You had that like.
No, I was like, no, we'll see all the back. Like, I mean, I've done, like I said, the one wedding I did that was like a horrendous experience for me. I mean, my husband like is like a super pro at DJs, like just like you guys. So I can like when I hear some of the stories from him too, like when things happen, and you know what, he goes to his weddings like 3 hours beforehand just in case. And I applaud him, because if I had to be somewhere 3 hours beforehand, I would just not survive. Like, I don't even know how some of you guys like are able to like set up and break down, because I remember trying to set up and break down my own corporate events. I would be dead, like 2 hours before setup, do like a 6-hour corporate event and have to still break down. I'm like, no, I allot for people to set up and break down for me, so I have that energy. So I'm not like, that energy drains you, right? Because when you think about it, you set up and break down for yourself, and then you're DJing, and people could see it on your face. Like, why does she look all concerned?
Well,
like,
you've already been there for like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, you've been there for like 4 hours.
And then the 4-hour dance party, you have to spend all your energy for that at the end.
Yeah, I have a question.
Definitely hire techs.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So I have a question. So I own 3 sets of QSC speakers now. But to be honest, my K12.2s are too heavy to get on that stand. Okay. And I've talked to some people about it, and that's why I went to the gym before this call. But I'm like, do you ever put it on the stand, like on the ground, and then lift it up?
I have the hydraulic, yeah, the hydraulic one.
But you still got to get it up pretty high.
No, you mean to lift it on the stand?
I managed to have the strength at one point in time. I have to exercise.
I did have it. I mean, I had it in September, but I also tweaked my neck and was oh gosh, I need to address this. So I just got the CP8s, which are very tiny, and I have hydraulic stands and non, and they were amazing, actually. Next Monday I have a wedding, and it's like going to be 25 people. And
maybe what you should think about is getting the sub that rolls on wheels, and then putting the CP8 on that. Yeah,
I've definitely inquired.
Yeah, no, that's tough. I mean, your best bet, I think you're gonna have to lift it at one. There's gonna be lifting involved. I think this is a career where it's gonna be like in the job description, like must be able to lift X amount of pounds. I think that's DJ.
Back brace and floor mat.
Right, absolutely. But go ahead.
My K10s I rocked for years and made plenty of money, did plenty of gigs, and those I can handle. It's the 40-pound that I can't. And I ordered a 20-pound slam ball, but I haven't used it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the best advice I could give is to do your research, see there's different kinds of speakers out there. There's low profile speaker. I mean, we all know QSCs are the best speakers, but we're not going to lie to say that there's not different varieties of speakers and everything that, are out there. So I would say do the research and see what speakers were, and also QSC makes different kinds of speakers, everybody. So look at and they weigh differently. So look at the specs when you're buying speakers, look at everything. Cause the CPs are a little lighter than the Ks versus, the other lines that they have. So definitely look into that. But, in terms of just speakers in general, outside of that, there's slim profile, there's different ones. I would say work for, see what works for you and for your crowd and for your room. And just like somebody just said in the chat box, adding the small KS112 sub with CP8 or K8.2 is a great solution. I agree. The smaller speakers pack punch, the bass, they just lack the bass. So that sub is going to help you with that bass. You're just going to have to lift that bass. Get the subwoofer, in the car.
So slide it out of your car.
Yeah. Get
it on its wheels.
Yeah. I mean, there's options. There's total options out there. But I would say to everybody, I've learned that the hard way. I used to just say, oh, cool, the speaker works. And then I'd buy it. And now I look at the specs, the weight, everything. But like I said, QSC has so many different speakers at all different weights. I mean, even this one behind me that I used, I think this is a CP8 too. This is super light. It's way lighter than my K8, you know, I mean, not way lighter, but it's noticeably lighter, I would say. And also I agree. It sounds, I mean, it's definitely not as punchy as the K8, but to a novice audience, they probably wouldn't know the difference. You know what I mean? So
yeah, totally.
I think that's nature of the beast, though. I think we all start somewhere. I think we've all started where we were lugging just stuff that was way too heavy for us. And then we were like, okay, I'm going to invest and do this. But
yeah,
I would like do corporate store gigs by myself, and I'd look around and sometimes I'm doing like a women's store. I'm like, excuse me, can you help me real quick? You know, put the speaker on top. I would be like so embarrassed, but I'm like 5 feet tall and I'm like this little girl, you know, so it's like, I feel embarrassed, but like, I'm not like afraid to ask for help. I just, you know, like I feel bad when I have to. So like, I mean, like, you know, we kept going with smaller and smaller speakers to adjust, but you know, that's my bad. I stopped going to the gym. So props to you, Rundat. She's back in the gym. I'm like,
yeah. So do your research and do your workouts. That's what we're taking home from this conversation right now.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we're actually running low on time. So I think that's a pretty cool way to end it. But again, you know, like I telling everybody, QSC is an amazing speaker company. They have all different products for all different kinds of events. So do your research, shop out there, see what you can find, what works for you. Same when it comes to live music. They have different mixers that are amazing. I mean, they have the touchscreen mixers that are a bit more on the complicated, not complicated, advanced end is the word I was looking for, is a better word than complicated, but advanced, but sounds amazing. And if you have the time and energy to invest, it's really great and impressive too. It looks really impressive to your clients when they see that. So things to consider, but got to show that QSC love, you know, before we wrap up, you know, everybody. Yeah. But since we are wrapping, I usually like to end on one cool tip, one thing you want to say to the audience that's watching us right now, whether it's advice, whether it's just, you know, affirmations, just telling everybody to have a good day, shouting yourself out, whatever you want to do. This is our time to do it. So let's go ahead and around the circle and get things going. Rundat, you're in my peripheral. So let's start with you. What do you want to tell everybody?
All right. So stress only harms you. And the more prepared you are, the less stress you will have. That's my no.
Love it. Preparation is key. It definitely takes away that stress. I will say that's great advice. All right, Tessa, what about you?
I'm going to revert this back to KrisCut, but check your DJ bag before you go back out because we are out of practice. Make sure you got your laptop, headphones, backups, everything.
I agree.
Be prepared.
100%. Solid advice, especially if you're like me and you're switching from virtual to live. Make sure those headphones are in the back, because if you knew how many times I showed up and my headphones were here instead of in my back. I have a backup set, thankfully, but the sweat is just unreal when you have that. All right, KrisCut, what about you?
Oh man, yeah, Tessa. I mean, yeah, just like just take it easy on yourself. Like people going back to in real life gigs, like, you know, you're gonna feel a little bit of fatigue because we're all trying to get back into that rhythm. So don't be too hard on yourself. Make sure you get appropriate rest and don't burn yourself out. Because I learned that this past weekend, I'm like canceling streams. I'm like hopping on after my streams because I miss my community. So I DJ'd like 15 hours over like 2 days because I did 10 hours at like my gigs and then 5 hours with my community. And then I had to cancel my Sunday. So it's like just that balance. Make sure you find time for yourself, along with, you know, getting back into the groove. So get some, make self-care. Self-care.
100%. Tessa, did you have something you were going to add after you were done?
Oh, no, I was going to say, KrisCut, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to steal what you might have wanted to say.
No, it's okay. I know, rub it in, because me and my husband are always having this. Yeah, the conversation about be ready. Be ready, be prepared. He's always like, get ready, make sure. And then I'm so relaxed. I'm like, yeah, it's in there. And then, you know, like, it happens. Though,
oh, no, I triple check. And then I'm driving down the street and I pull over and I check again.
Oh, my God, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is stay ready so you don't have to get ready. So I live my life by that whole thing. But to piggyback off of what everybody has said here, I would just agree 100% with all three of you and say, you know, definitely preparation, time management, and self-care are so important in this industry. We work really hard, and this is a job that you have to work extremely hard to build your career up. And then once you get your career going, you still have to work hard to keep that career going. So burnout is real and it's a reality. And, you know, understand that, you know, expanding your network, learning how to work smarter, not harder, pricing yourself appropriately. All of those things are super important, and they come with time and with education, but they matter. Educate yourself, do what works best for you and your company, and you will thrive. And the last thing I want to add on that I myself just learned to live by, do not live in the scarcity mindset. Understand that this world is full of abundance and there's plenty of work for everybody. So do not be scared to befriend your other DJs. Yes, some might be competitive with you and you don't want to be friends, but for the most part, you can be friends with other DJs. You can share gigs, even if you are direct competitors. You can share. Me and Tessa went to breakfast the other day and we're talking about this, and one of her best friends is her direct competitor, and they're best friends.
Me and Ninja get the same inquiries.
Yeah, I mean, that's how close they are. So
and she'll get the jobs and I'm like, you go, girl. That was for you.
That's it. High five for you. Great for you. And then sometimes vice versa. And it's just a luck of the draw and what works best for your clients. So understand there's enough to go out there, build everybody up instead of breaking us down, and support your DJ. Instead of going out there and saying, you know, hey, I could do that, go over there and say, you did a great job tonight, DJ. I just want to say that was amazing, you know, and that's the best advice I can give you. And don't request songs when you're at a nightclub. Let the DJ do it. That's a different conversation. But thank you, ladies, so much. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you to QSC for having us here today. Thank you to our viewers in the chat box. You guys were amazing. We appreciate you all. Everyone, enjoy your week. Have fun at those live events. If you're still doing virtual, have fun with that. Great job out there, everybody, this past weekend. Even better job next weekend. Take care, everybody. We will see you on the next DJ discussion. Take care, everybody.